Hello friends, back again with my second part of making a black forest cake. I met you all guys in my first part where I showed you how to make a nice chocolate sponge for my black forest cake. Here I am with you as I promised in the second part where I'm going to complete the black forest cake by decorating the black forest cake and finishing it off with a presentation. So without wasting any more time guys, let me take through some of the things that I need to remind you before we start. Always guys, always keep in mind hygiene is very important, as well as occupational health and safety, because we will be working with machines and we'll be working with high risk food products, so we have to be very careful with these two main things, which is food safety and occupational health and safety. To start off this second part, here is the sponge that I made in the first part. If everybody has seen, that's my sponge which has been rested in the fridge. It's nice and cold and easy to slice. I need to have a knife like that, a shredded knife, or probably we used to call it a bread knife, alright, so that I can slice the sponge into exactly 3 slices. I'm going to only utilize 3 slices for this black forest cake, right? And also I have 1 liter of cream, which I'm going to use for my decoration purposes, because usually black forest gateau is fresh cream. You don't usually use buttercream, so there is 1 liter of fresh cream. And then you have 200 grams of caster sugar, where if you have a desire of putting icing sugar you can, but I would prefer to go with caster sugar. So that's my caster sugar, and if you like you can put a drop of vanilla essence, which is optional. If you do not want, you don't need to worry. And also I have the next ingredient, which is my cherry pie filling, right, which is usually black cherries cooked in sugar water, right, and then thickened with corn starch. So that's my cherry pie filling, which I'm going to apply on the black forest cake. Then also I got some strawberry jam, which I'll also will be layering it in my bottom slice. And also I have some nice sugar syrup, which has been flavored with vanilla essence for me to soak my every layer of this sponge, because usually if you have this sponge soaked with sugar syrup, you'll get a better product and very mouth watery taste. So to start off with my first thing, I'm going to whip up my cream. Right, whipping up my cream, because we need the cream. That's the most important. Sponge has been already done. I got a beautiful turntable for me to roll around in decorating this cake. So I'm going to get the cream started. All right, it approximately takes about 4 to 5 minutes, right, max, in whipping up. Now always remember, when you're whipping up the cream, please stay close to the machine. Do not leave the machine and go around, because if you overbeat the cream, you're going to end up having butter. So we don't want that. So the cream has to be in the right consistency. You will see when I do it now. And yeah, so we will start our step-by-step process of completing a black forest cake. All right guys, so here we are. Our cream has been whipped up. All right, so if you see, that's what I meant by the consistency. I don't want it runny, right, and I don't want it to be over mixed, because a few more minutes if you over mix, it's going to turn into butter. So we don't want that. It's pure white, it's nice, smooth, and ready for operation. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the very old school thing. We used to have this extra layer of something at the bottom, which could be a bit of a tough thing. So in so many different countries they do so many different things, but what I learned was, if you can have a base, right, before we cut the sponge, we can have some type of a biscuit base on the bottom, and then start building the gateau on the biscuit base. It will look very nice and it will taste very nice too, because when I come to the situation, I'll let you know why we use a biscuit base at the bottom. Right, so likewise I have done before, I'm going to have that biscuit base at the bottom. Right, so that's the biscuit base. It's briefly, this is called a 1 2 3 dough. So we have 100 grams sugar, we got 200 grams of butter, 300 grams of flour mixed together. You'll get this biscuit base, right? So once this base is placed on the base. All right, what I'm going to do next is basically I am going to fill that with some jam. Jam's done. All right, next I'm going to slice my sponge. Right. So I'll take my bread knife, and if you have a very thin crust on top, don't worry about clearing the crust. But if you do have a crust which is a bit thick when you're baking, I would prefer for you to take it out. But here it's a very thin crust, so I'm not going to take out the crust on top. I'm going to keep it and cut it with that. So first what I do is I mark my 3 slices. So that's 1, and then that's 2. All right, so then I start cutting. So when you're slicing a sponge, you just go, I might use my turntable so that it's easy. So you keep your cake there with your knife, you just go circling the table, the cake turntable, right? And then slowly take out 1 slice. All right, so very clean cut. Then we go for the next one. All right, there you go. So I'm just slicing the next slice. It has to be a very clean cut. All right, there you go. My next layer has come out. Right, so now from this stage onwards, I got 3 nice layers of sponge sliced. All right, so we are going to build up the cake on top of this biscuit base, which is being layered with jam. All right, so my first layer goes onto the cake. All right, there you go. Nicely stick. Here what I wanted to say, why that biscuit base which is on the bottom helps you. Every layer, if your sponge is a bit dry, I always prefer to soak it with my sugar syrup. Right, usually when I do it without a biscuit base, I don't soak the bottom, because sometimes when you soak all 3 and if the bottom is also soaked, it's going to be too soggy, and when you cut the slice of the cake, it might not give a very steady bottom. Right, but since I put my biscuit base, which is a bit solid, all right, I might soak my 3rd layer. All right, so I'm going to soak my 3rd layer with sugar syrup before I put my filling inside. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cherry pie filling. I'm going to put my cherry pie filling on the sponge. Always remember it has to be black cherry pie filling, which is an original thing for the Black Forest cake. So there you go. I'm just filling up with some nice cherry pie filling. If you can buy these cherry pie fillings in the shop, but if you don't have it in shops, in Coles or Woolies, I mean, you can make it at home too. Buy some pitted black cherry, boil it in sugar water. Right, when the sugar water starts boiling and pitted cherry gets a bit cooked, like, just add some cornstarch and make it thick. That's all you need to do to get this filling here. All right, so my biscuit base is done. My second sponge layer filling has been put, so I'm going to just put my next layer on top. All right, there you go. I'm going to soak this layer also with sugar syrup. Now there are some people who would like to have some liquor flavor on their Black Forest cake. I'll strongly advise you to add some rum or brandy onto the sugar syrup, which will give you a bit of a better flavor, right? All right, so that layer has been done. So I'm going to fill that layer with some nice fresh cream. Like the French say, they want a lot of cream on the Black Forest cake. So I'm using a lot of cream on the Black Forest cake. Right, and my last layer goes on top. I'll soak that also, so that your cake will be soft and nice. And once this step is over, I'm just going to balance the whole thing and get it to a neater finish. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to get a clean piece of paper and just give it a bit of a clean on my turntable before I could start putting more cream and start decorating it. Right, so I've just got my turntable cleaned up, and this is when I'm going to put my last bit of cream to finish off this cake. Right, then we just make sure we get that onto the right spot. Now you might be wondering why the sponge can be seen on the sides, right? If I'm not going to use anything on the side, I will be smoothing it like how I've done it on the top, but I'm going to use something on the sides which will cover that sponge. All right, so there you go. So I've got my cake well smooth. All right, and now after this I'm going to start doing my chocolate decoration, which is going to go on the cake. I'm going to do some chocolate decoration which is going to do the finishing touches for this Black Forest cake. All right, so for that I have done 2 cones that I will be working on, right? Cones made out of baking parchment and a nice long 30 centimeter piece of parchment paper for my sides of the cake. Then I also have a nice piping disposable piping bag and a piping nozzle to start finishing off the rosettes on the top. Okay, so while this is ready, I'm going to check my chocolate whether it's ready. Chocolate is ready. We start off doing our final preparation for this Black Forest cake. So here I got my chocolate melted on a double boiler. If you do have a chocolate warmer at home, you can use that, but if not, just on a double boiler. I melted my chocolate. I've not cooked it. It's perfectly all right. It's very smooth. Make sure that when you're melting or tempering the chocolate, the water should not be too hot, because don't keep it on the stove while you're melting it. The best way to do it is boil your water, take it out off the stove, and then place your chocolate on top. You'll get a smooth finishing. So for my first thing, I want to do my bird's nest around the Black Forest cake. So for that, I've done a cone with my parchment paper and my melted chocolate. I'm just going to throw the chocolate in. Do not overfill your cones always, right? Because by overfilling the cones, you might be ending up a bit messy. So I've got this ready now. Right, so that make sure that enough chocolate comes out. All right, the next thing I'm going to do on my rectangular piece of parchment paper, the long one, what I'm going to do is just going to go like that. Right, so that's done. So we just allow it to set for a while, because it is very cold outside these days. The chocolate sets pretty fast. If it's a warm day, just you need to wait, or maybe take a small a plastic scrape, or just give it a bit of a wind on top. All right, so that it cools down the chocolate. But on a normal winter day, chocolate sets very fast. If you can see that it's almost setting. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this paper from my marble table, and I'm going to go around the sponge. So I'm just removing the paper now. There you go. And then I just go around the cake. So I'll put it around the cake, and I'm going to do is just give it a bit of a rest in the fridge while I'm getting ready with my other chocolate work. So while that cake is resting in the fridge, I'm going to do some chocolate cigars like thing to put on top of the Black Forest cake, because all what is meant by this Black Forest cake is it just should have a bit of a foresty appearance. So when you go into a forest, you'll have all these tree barks and all fallen everywhere. So I'm going to do something like bark that goes on top of the cake. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread my chocolate on my marble table. I'm going to do the cigars when it starts, so the shiny bit on the top should fade away, and you should have some surface like that before we start cutting our cigars, or the bark that I was talking about on top of a Black Forest cake. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to get it, it's almost there, so I'm going to just start scrolling my cigars. Alright, I got one cigar. Yeah, it looks also like a bark. Got my second one. Got my third one. So basically we are ready now to remove the wax paper around this bird's nest. Right, so this is the tricky part. You have to be very careful. So I'll just go, it just should come out if the chocolate is properly dried. Right, there you go. And gently remove that. There we go. They've got a bird's nest around the cake. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill my rest of the cream that I have. Right, inside. Okay, so I have 8 nice cherries. Right, just to finish it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 8 rosettes. So there is 1 rosette up, 1 rosette here, 1 rosette there. Alright, so I got the 8 rosettes. Then I keep my red cherries on top. Now these guys, remember, these are glacé cherries. If you have maraschino cherries, if you can afford maraschino cherries, I would love to put maraschino cherries on top. But if you don't have, you can always get the glacé cherry, which is available in the cake counter of Coles and Woolies. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just break this up, right, just to give it a bit of a leafy, you know, those dry leaves in the forest. Alright, so there you go. I'm just going to put and fill this up with some dry leaf. Alright, in the middle. Alright, so and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just build up a small area where they can have a bit of a campfire. So I'm just building up this wood here. We are doing it during a winter period, so it'll be nice to finish it with a bit of a snow on top of your wood or your bark, I would say. Alright, so to just finish off this nice Black Forest cake. I'm going to finish it off with some icing sugar to give it a bit of a wintry effect, that the snow has fallen on top of this Black Forest cake. Guys, here is my Black Forest cake. So there you go. So it was a very pretty long process. I showed you how to make the sponge, I showed you how to do the chocolate decorations, I showed you how to whip up the cream. I hope you guys will enjoy this Black Forest cake once you have done it, right? But if you're planning to sell, or if you're planning to make it for somebody, your friends, just make sure that once you have completed, remove the cake from the cake turntable. When you're removing the cake from the cake table, it should come without any issue, because we got a biscuit base at the bottom which should slip into the cake board pretty easy. There you go, guys. Until I see you in my next video with some other goodies. Ciao for now. Stay safe, guys, and be happy.